In this week's episode, should you include your funeral instructions in your will? Welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Funeral, my intriguing, funny, outrageous, and sublime stories about estates. Fredric Baur died in May 2008. He was 89 years old. He was an organic chemist and a food storage scientist. We wouldn't be talking about him now, but for his most famous invention, which he invented in 1966 and got the patent for in 1970, the Pringles can. In the mid-1980s, Fredric spoke to his children about the possibility of having his remains interred in a Pringles can. It became something of a joke in the family. After his death, 20 years later, on the way to the funeral home, the kids stopped at a Walgreens to purchase the Pringles can. There was some debate about what flavor Dad wanted to be interred in, but Larry won, and they decided there could be nothing other than the original flavor. Fredric's ashes were divided into 3 containers. One traditional urn of ashes went to one of his grandchildren. The other urn and the Pringles can were buried in his burial plot. Today's lesson: if you have some very specific ideas about how you want to be buried, should you include them in your will? The answer is you can, but that's not the best place for them. First of all, nobody is likely to look at your will for several days after your death. You will have been buried by the time they see your funeral instructions. And secondly, the estate trustee is not bound by your funeral instructions. The first debt that must be paid is funeral expenses. And as an estate trustee can be personally liable for estate expenses which are over and beyond what they ought to have been, which are extraordinary, then you have to have a funeral which is in keeping with your station in life and the value of your estate. If you're an average Canadian, you can't leave binding instructions for your remains to be placed upon a custom-built Viking longship, set aflame, and floated down the Ottawa River in a glorious Viking funeral. Simply put, that would cost too much money, and your beneficiaries could take action against the estate trustee in that the estate trustee had spent their inheritance on this incredible funeral. The estate trustee would be personally liable for the expenses which are over and beyond what they ought to have been. So if you have specific wishes for how you would like your funeral to be, the most important thing is that you let your loved ones know now. Fredric Baur told his kids in the 1980s that he wanted to be buried in a Pringles can, and they honored his wish. It likely was not in his will at all. Fun fact: the History Channel did in fact arrange for a Viking funeral in San Diego Harbor in promotion of Vikings season number 5 back in 2017.